Good afternoon, Ms. A. Thank you for meeting with us today for SD's annual IEP review. Before we get started, I want to provide you with another copy of your parent rights. To keep us on track, I've created an agenda for our meeting. If we are unable to complete everything in the time we have today, we will schedule a follow-up meeting at your convenience. I've provided multiple copies of the draft IEP and a summary of the assessment data we're going to cover. They're the same as the ones I sent home with the notice of meeting to help you prepare for today's meeting. As we discussed on the phone, this is a draft, and your input is important in creating an appropriate plan for SD. Please stop me if I say something that is unclear or if you want clarification. Do you have any questions? Okay, great. Thank you. Let's talk first about SD's strengths. In the area of reading, SD picks up new concepts quickly when presented orally with information. He has great auditory skills. SD can independently name all the lower and uppercase letters of the alphabet, and he can match the consonant and vowel sounds to the letters when isolated. He's working on decoding one-syllable CBC words with short vowel sounds, and he remembers previously learned words. SD's oral and auditory vocabulary is a great strength for him, as he can sort words into categories and define many of the grade level words in his classroom. The areas that we've identified for improvement for SD, as you and I have talked, is he is very hard on himself. If he doesn't perform well according to his perception and definition, he will call himself stupid, and he will give up when working with me individually even. He may engage in avoidance in the classroom, as we've talked about, when facing a difficult task, and he continues to reverse those letters by writing them backwards and upside down and transposing them, like the sample that I showed you and we talked about and I've included in your packet to take home with you today. To determine SD's present levels of reading performance, I used 3 different types of reading assessments. The first type were informal reading assessments. The second type was a curriculum-based measurement that I used called the Ames Web Plus Word Reading Fluency. And the third type was a norm-referenced assessment, the Gray Oral Reading Test, its 5th edition. Let's look together at the results of the informal assessment first. Here's a copy of the worksheet that SD and I used. I chose this assessment because it was one of my first interactions with SD, and it provided valuable information to me using a teacher-selected task from his classroom. The students were to read 6 short sentences and sort them into one of 2 different categories. According to several online readability indexes, the readability level ranged from kindergarten to 2nd grade words. SD was asked to read the sentences to himself and then out loud. After a few minutes of quiet, I asked him to read the first sentence, and he indicated he did not know the words, and he appeared very sad. His usual smile was upside down. I then told him I would say any words he did not know. By doing this, I discovered that SD could read the following words on the page. He said a, am, can, do, I, is, and up, and I pulled out the alphabet next in upper and lowercase letters and had SD read them and give me their sounds. He was perfect on that task. This let me know that he could see over size 12 font adequately. I'm not positive about size 12, but when I increased it to 14 and 16 and 18 and 20, even without glasses, which I knew we were both curious about and wanted to report to the eye doctor, he did just fine. For reading comprehension, after we read the sentences together, SD could easily sort them into the correct categories. This indicates his auditory and listening comprehension is a great strength for him, and he compares well to his grade level peers. That gave me insight into why SD might avoid reading out loud independently during informal reading comprehension assessments, because he does know what he knows and what he doesn't know, and he's very aware of his strengths and also the areas that he doesn't have confidence in yet. I tried to assess SD using the Fry Sight word list, and here's a copy of that. The first 100 words are on this list for you to keep. These words are considered the most frequently occurring in the English language, and they are often learned in the first grade. When SD saw this list, he did not want to try them, and he told me he was stupid, and he started to cry. I am sad with him, and I know now that he does know some of these words. The district has been using the Ames Web Plus Word Reading Fluency Assessment for curriculum-based measurements and for progress monitoring. One, it can be given very quickly, and second, it does a great job of measuring progress for the students. The word reading fluency consists of high frequency and highly decodable words. In fact, 90% of its words are from this Fry list of not only the 100 words, but up to the 300 words that are seen most frequently for first graders and second graders and kindergartners. I asked SD to read as many words from the 2-page list as possible, and that he would only need to read for 1 minute, and I set my phone to 60 seconds. As you can see from this chart, SD achieved a baseline of 6 words read correctly with 4 errors, and this was performed at the beginning of October. On the next 3 monitoring dates, his correct words remained at 6, but the number of errors jumped to as high as 9. We saw some progress on the latest monitoring last week when SD read 9 words correct with only 5 errors. For his norm reference test, which was the final assessment we'll discuss today, we used the Gray Oral Reading Test, its 5th edition. I selected this test because it's an oral reading proficiency test. What that means is it will tell us how SD performs on tasks compared to other kids his age. It's known to be gender and ethnic free of bias, and this is the chart showing his performance on the GORD assessment. The age equivalency is less than 6 years of age, and the grade equivalency is below a first grade level. And the next column shows his percentile rank in the areas of rate, accuracy, fluency, comprehension, and then summarizes his oral reading skills. I don't appreciate the descriptive terms, so we'll just say that these are areas of growth for SD, and I set my short-term goals that I would like to see, and I'll run these by you and see how you feel about these. I would like to see SD correctly reading 15 words during 60 seconds from this Fry list of 100 words. And secondly, I'd like to see SD reading 20 words correctly with no more than 5 errors on the Ames Web Plus Word Reading Fluency Test. For long-term goals, I think that SD, by December of next year, will be able to correctly read 40 of these words in 60 seconds from the Fry list of 100 words. And I also think he will score 43 words correctly with no more than 5 errors on the Ames Web Plus Word Reading Fluency Test. I've created this packet of information and materials. It includes flashcards and web addresses that you can use with SD at home. I encourage you to practice the Fry words list using Spelling City on his tablet, which I know he loves. Here's his special username and secret password. And continue to do as you've told me you've done. Keep reading to SD while running your index finger under the words. This will be great practice for him and an excellent way to continue to develop his vocabulary and background knowledge that is such a strength for him. Thank you so much for meeting today. Do you have any questions? Great. Thank you. I look forward to continuing to work with SD.